At first, nobody paid attention to the disaster. It began with dozens of days of high temperatures, the maximum even exceeding 45 degrees. Soon after, the fields dried up and the lakes ran dry. By the time people truly realized how serious the problem was, the end had already arrived. It's so hot, I'm dying. How could it be this hot this year? Yeah, it's been over 40 degrees for 3 days straight. This heat is going to drive people crazy. On the way home from work, pedestrians hurried along. Almost no one lingered on the main road, everyone moving as quickly as possible into buildings to escape the heat. I parked my car at the intersection, waiting for the traffic light, and glanced at my phone. 17:45, temperature 38. Although it was nearly evening, the sun had not set. The sunlight and persistent heat made it feel like midday, and today's temperature fell off compared to usual. When the light turned green, I hesitated for a moment, and, instead of going straight home, I turned left to the city's largest supermarket to buy some supplies. It was Friday, and the weekend was coming. If the temperature stayed above 40 degrees, I planned to ask the company for some time off and stay home to avoid the heat. After all, I had just finished an around-the-clock big project, so the company probably wouldn't deny my leave. I rushed into the supermarket and headed straight for the fresh food section, buying a large amount of everyday ingredients. Then went to the frozen section for steaks, frozen fish, and shrimp. Passing the personal care aisle, I saw that my usual sanitary pads and tampons were on sale, and on a whim, I bought 2 big bags, filling the shopping cart. Need any help? A young clerk came over and asked me, a shy smile on his face. I nodded, handed him 1 cart, pushed another, went into the canned goods aisle, grabbed 2 cans of each kind, then moved into the snack aisle and swept up a stack of sunflower seeds and potato chips. Want to buy some drinks? Our large bottle Coke and Sprite combo is on sale. Only 9.9 yuan, the clerk suggested. It made sense to me. Although I usually stay healthy and don't drink many soft drinks, you can't have chips without cola, so I went to the drink section and grabbed 5 combo packs, 10 bottles in total, and had the clerk help carry 2 cases of bottled water, filling the 3rd cart. I thought that would be it, but as I was leaving and past the rice section, I suddenly slapped my forehead. The rice container home was nearly empty. I needed to buy some. So I bothered the staff guy again and had him carry 2 bags of rice for me, while I grabbed 5 packs of instant noodles and stuffed them into the gaps of the 2nd cart. By now, the 3 carts were packed to the brim. At checkout, it was 1,321 yuan and 80 cents. Would you like home delivery? The staff guy asked again. I shook my head. No need, just help me put them in the car. Are you sure? These things are heavy. The waiter seemed very eager to help me, but I still declined and only asked him to load everything into my large trunk. When he closed the trunk, he seemed to sigh, but I didn't pay much attention and drove straight home. 5 years after divorcing my ex-husband, I went on a 6-month spontaneous trip and eventually chose to stay in this slow-paced 3rd-tier city, leaving behind everything I was familiar with. Now, I live alone renting in an upscale suburban complex on the 16th floor of the middle section. Not too high, not too low, 2 apartments per elevator with a separate security door. Maybe because of different activity schedules and excellent soundproofing, I've never even met the other neighbor. Only the umbrella occasionally left by the elevator hints that someone else lives on this floor. I parked my car in the lot and had to make 3 trips to carry all the groceries to the elevator. Back at my door, I spent another 10-odd minutes sorting everything into my large chest freezer and big refrigerator. Because the neighborhood was locked down once during the pandemic before, I specifically bought a large freezer which was now about 80% full. 1/3 of the compartment was stocked with ice cream I hoarded, and the rest was all frozen chickens, ducks, animal offal, and half a slab of pork. All of this had been sent to me by my mother from her hometown. The family had leased a mountain where the old man and woman raised pigs, chickens, and ducks for pleasure, and they'd send me frozen goods all the time, so the stash just kept growing. I put the steaks and frozen fish and shrimp in, finally filling it 90% full, thinking that even if another sudden pandemic lockdown happened, this meat would last me 2 months. Ding! I was stuffing some of the drinks into the fridge when my phone received a text. I glanced at it out of the corner of my eye. The Municipal Meteorological Bureau had issued a red high temperature warning, a bold 41 degrees Celsius jumping out at me. Tomorrow, the city's temperature will reach a new high, exceeding 41 degrees. Citizens are advised to avoid going out between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. if there are elderly people or children at home. 41 degrees? I couldn't help swearing, grabbed my phone, and immediately drafted a text to go through the leave process with my boss and sent a notification to HR in one go. I don't want to go out and get roasted in this heat, so I'll take off as long as I can. I calculated the compensatory time I've accumulated over the past 6 months from rushing a big project, plus weekends, and I could probably take about 20 days off in one go. Surely it won't still be this hot after 20 days, right? My leave request was approved quickly. I came out of the shower, and my inbox showed it had been granted. There were also 2 missed calls. It was my mom, so I called her back. Hey, Mom. Sophie, it's very hot where you are. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. You're alone. How could you handle heat stroke? Also, make sure you ask for leave from work and don't go in. You stubborn girl. You used to run around when you were little, even at 39 degrees. She picked up, and my mom immediately fired off a rapid stream of greetings. I know, Mom. You two also need to be careful about the heat and cooling. Don't be stingy about using the air conditioner, okay? I reminded her. What air conditioner? Your father and I are up in the mountains. The high today was only about 35 degrees, and we still sleep under blankets at night. You should worry about yourself. If you'd stayed here, you could have moved right into the mountain house, much cooler. My mother started nagging in a bad mood. I let her nag for over 10 minutes before I finally found an excuse to hang up. This summer was indeed unusually hot. I opened a tub of ice cream, settled comfortably on the sofa, and ate it while turning on the TV. Recent persistent high temperatures have already caused over 1,000 deaths across European countries. Parts of India have seen temperatures exceed 55 degrees. Some experts say such temperatures are no longer suitable for human habitation. When I opened it, the news was all about global heat. I was glad I lived in China, where air conditioning penetration per capita exceeds 100%. At that time, I did not yet know that within just a few days, continuous rising heat would quickly show me what it means to be unsuitable for human habitation. Over the next weekend, I happily ran my 24-hour constant temperature air conditioner, slept until I woke naturally, spent my mornings at home watching shows and playing games, and at mealtimes cooked a dish or simmered a soup for myself, comfortably enjoying a staycation at home. Until Monday, I was sleeping soundly when my phone suddenly rang and woke me. When I answered, it was my colleague Lily. Sophie, why didn't you come to work today? I took leave, a long leave. You won't see me until next month. I let out a long yawn. Lily listened and, shocked, said, Really? HR told me you used up all your annual and compensatory leave, and I couldn't believe it. Has something happened at home? She was the one in the company I was closest to. I quickly sat up. It's nothing, it's just too hot. I don't want to go to work. I want to rest a bit. Don't worry. Not coming to work because it's hot. Are you crazy? It's not the end of the world. End of the world heat. Haven't you heard of it? I chuckled. TCH, I'm really jealous you can take time off now. I still have finishing tasks on my project. Otherwise, I want to take time off too, you know? On my way to the office this morning, the back of my hand got sunburned. Lily complained to me for a few sentences, then hung up. I glanced at the time, 8:45 in the morning. So early, and the sun already this fierce? I got out of bed, drew open the blackout curtains, and opened the window to feel it. A wave of heat hit me, and everything in sight looked slightly warped. Holy shit. I quickly closed the window and drew the curtains. Absurd, this is way too hot. With weather like this, how are people who work outdoors supposed to survive? I glanced at the weather forecast. It showed 39 degrees Celsius, but it quickly auto-refreshed to 40 degrees Celsius, and the temperature predictions for the next few hours were, shockingly, on a continuous upward trend. 10 horas, 41 graus Celsius, 11 horas, 41 graus Celsius, 12 horas, 42 graus Celsius, 13 horas, 43 graus Celsius, 14 horas, 43 graus Celsius. Am I crazy, or is the weather forecast crazy? Yesterday's high was only 40 degrees Celsius. and today it's going to reach 43 degrees Celsius. I made myself a simple breakfast with trembling hands and ate it, then took out the trash, planning to go downstairs and throw it away while the weather wasn't yet so hot. When I opened the door, I happened to run into Charlie from the community management. He had just knocked on the neighbor's door. "Great, you're here too. Let's listen together." He turned to look at me and smiled. I smiled at him too and looked at my neighbor whom I had never seen before. He was a man with slightly long hair and dark circles under his eyes, looking as if he'd just woken up. When our eyes met, we nodded to each other. "It's like this. I'm here to notify you that due to the recent high temperatures, there may very likely be power outages in the next few days. If the power goes out, don't panic. Our complex has a solar power supply. After an outage, it needs 10 minutes to start up, and during that time, please try to conserve electricity as much as possible. Please set air conditioners to 26 degrees Celsius or higher." Charlie said, "Will the water be cut off?" I asked. "Not sure for now, but we still recommend stocking up on some drinking water at home. This heat is extreme, and our property management can't guarantee service at the moment. We're really sorry. Here's a flyer. Please take a look." "Got it." The man across the hall nodded, took the leaflet, and closed the door. He didn't seem like a very polite person. Charlie wasn't offended either. He handed the leaflet to me. I asked if he wanted to come in and rest, but he declined, saying he needed to hurry and inform the building residents face-to-face so no one would miss the notice. "Are you about to throw this away? Give it to me. I'll throw it out for you." He even took the trash from my hand. The property fee of 20 yuan per square meter really wasn't paid in vain. The community's facilities were quite advanced, and the service attitude was both good and attentive. After seeing him off, I went back into the house and noticed the communication screen by the door indeed displayed a message about possible power outages due to the heat, no different from the flyer in my hand. Only that if Charlie hadn't come a knock, I probably wouldn't have noticed. There were an unusually large number of ambulance and fire truck sirens passing by today. I was curled up on the sofa with the air conditioning on, eating ice cream, and I actually felt a bit guilty. News on the internet began to play rolling reports of various disasters caused by the extreme heat across different regions, and one video was pushed to the top. It was a journalist. For the first 30 seconds, he wasn't wearing a hat and braved the blazing sun to do a live report outdoors. At the 31st second, smoke suddenly rose from his head, and then it actually caught fire. Fortunately, a crew member nearby immediately doused it with bottled water. "Thanks for your concern. The person is fine. In high temperatures, please don't put too much hair wax in your hair, and please avoid working under the sun for too long." This is the pinned comment. I wanted to laugh when I read it, but I couldn't really laugh. I had a vague feeling that the world was about to have a major problem. 43 degrees, 44 degrees, 45 degrees. Sure enough, in the following days, the temperature kept rising. A week later, the daytime high astonishingly reached 46 degrees Celsius, and even at midnight, it was as hot as 39 degrees Celsius. All outdoor work had been halted, and almost every company switched to online operations, with only a few workers who couldn't stop gritting their teeth and persisting on the front lines. Yesterday's hottest news was a mother collapsing on the road while holding her feverish child, their skin burned by contact with the ground. Today's top story had become a heroic electrician who climbed to work under the blazing sun, suffered heat stroke, and died bravely, and countless people quietly laid small white flowers online. No one used that candle emoji anymore because it was simply too hot. As the heat persisted, power problems occurred in many places, and news of people dying from the heat became more and more common. The authorities implemented emergency measures, opening all school auditoriums and gymnasiums that had air conditioning, as well as shopping malls, as 24-hour shelters for people without AC to escape the heat, but the number of heat deaths continued to rise as temperatures climbed. Hospitals were overflowing, urban and rural fires were frequent, and help request videos were everywhere online. Since the holiday began, I've been calling my parents almost every day to check on their situation. Although they live up on the mountain, the maximum temperature reached 40 degrees in recent days, and when I called them today, I learned that they had finally turned on the air conditioning. "Sophie, don't worry about us. You must remember to keep the air conditioning on. Don't be afraid of wasting electricity. Your parents have money. Now it's them who are urging me to turn it on. I'm running it, don't worry. I said, do you have enough to eat? Shall I send you some food? Who knows when this natural disaster will be over? My mother's voice sounded anxious. It's enough, it's enough. Didn't I tell you? Before my leave, I bought a bunch of food, enough for 3 months, and the property management delivers ingredients every day. After the call ended, I specifically took photos of the contents of my 2 refrigerators again and sent them to them. Because of such a severe natural disaster, I haven't had much appetite these past few days and haven't eaten much. The 2 refrigerators are only missing some of the fruits and vegetables. After rearranging them, they still look full. I had just finished taking photos and sending them when the TV suddenly went black and the whole room fell silent. I pressed the light switch a few times to make sure it was a power outage. Thankfully, thanks to Charlie from Property Management's earlier warning, I wasn't very worried. After the air conditioning stopped, the surrounding temperature rose quickly and the air became stifling. With every breath, the air I inhaled felt much hotter. A few minutes later, I was drenched in sweat, so I hurriedly grabbed an ice cream from the fridge, sat on the floor, eating it while waiting for the power to come back. When the ice cream was finished, the power still hadn't returned. I ate another one. The power still hadn't come back. I couldn't sit still any longer and was about to pick up the intercom to call property management and ask what was going on. Ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell started ringing. Through the peephole, I saw it was the man across the hall, the same dark circles under his eyes, sweat all over him, standing at my door. Open or not? I hesitated for a moment, slid the safety chain, and opened the door a crack. Is something wrong? I asked. The man gestured to the thing in his hand. I looked closely. It was an ice cream. I just called the property management and told them it'll be another half hour. You must be sweltering. Have an ice cream to cool down. I have a lot. If you're hot, you could take one from me. His voice was actually quite pleasant. Thanks, no, I'm fine. I said. Maybe he saw my guard, because he didn't say anything more. He just put the ice cream on a shelf by my door and turned to leave. I left the door, cracked open, watching him walk past the 2 security doors, return to his house, and close the door. Perhaps he really is a good person? Ice cream is a scarce commodity at times like this. I opened the door, brought the ice cream inside, thought for a moment, put 2 plastic bags over it, and then put it in my freezer, taking another ice cream out to eat. After I finish this one, I won't open the freezer again, so the cold air inside won't escape. Really, it's so hot. About 20 minutes later, I was lying on the floor in a starfish position, panting like a dog. It's hot, but I don't dare open the window, afraid it's hotter outside. 46 degrees of high temperature. No, wait. 1538 update successful. I stared in disbelief at the temperature that had just refreshed on my phone, almost shouting out loud. 48 degrees, already 48 degrees. This can't be. Surely I misread it. I pressed my finger to the screen and swiped down to refresh again. 1539 update successful. 1539 update successful. 1539 update successful. But 3 times in a row it showed 48 degrees, and then the interface suddenly turned into a 404. I went back to check the weather, but my phone showed the network was disconnected and a red exclamation mark appeared on the screen. I turned it off and on, and it displayed that both SIMs had no signal. It wasn't just the network. The phone had lost all communication functionality. The temperature around me kept rising. I felt the room nearing 40 degrees. Every breath was hot and made me feel like I was about to suffocate. I dashed to the door, grabbed the intercom on it, and pressed the property management call button. Beep, beep, beep. No one answered for a long time. Has even the property management stopped working? Heat and fear flooded me instantly. The room was filled only with the sound of my breathing. The soundproofing was so good that I couldn't hear any noise besides my own. It felt as if I were on a deserted island. Stay calm. Sophie, you need to stay calm. I spoke to myself, walked to the freezer, yanked it open, and pulled out a duck, holding it against my chest. The duck had been frozen in the freezer for months. It was rock solid from the inside out, which cooled me down a bit and helped me calm down enough to start thinking about what I'd do if I got heat stroke alone in the apartment. Heat stroke. I should be, oh, right, traditional Chinese medicines for preventing heat stroke. I opened the medicine box, tore open a bottle of herbal liquid and gulped it down, then took out some medicated oil and rubbed it on my forehead, neck, and armpits to cool off. Next, I grabbed a blanket from the bedroom, soaked it in a big basin of water in the bathroom, and draped it over myself. I had done everything I could. While I ate a few mouthfuls of an ice cream, I kept checking the clock on the wall, regretting not buying a digital clock with a thermometer so I could know the temperature in the room. But even if I knew the temperature, there was nothing I could do. Beep, beep, beep. I don't know how much time had passed, maybe a few minutes, maybe half an hour, when the intercom at the door suddenly came to life. I whipped my head around so fast I almost strained my neck. Attention everyone. Ahem. Homeowners, please be advised. Our city is experiencing an extreme heat event. The community's solar panels have been damaged by the sun, and power cannot be restored at the moment. Homeowners may temporarily go to the underground parking to cool off. Currently, the temperature on basement level 1 is 39.8 degrees, and basement level 2 is 38 degrees. Of course, the underground parking lot. How did I never think of that? I was just about to rush out the door, but I paused, grabbed a backpack, put in a frozen duck, packed the remaining medicated oil and Chinese herbal medicine, shoved in 2 loaves of bread and 3 bottles of mineral water, re-wetted the blanket, and only then opened the door. When I opened my door, the opposite one opened at the same time. The neighbor came out carrying a large backpack. What a coincidence! A neighbor I'd never seen before, appearing every time I opened the door since the heat disaster began. Come with me, my car's gas tank is full. He walked straight up to me and said. I instinctively took a step back. Since the divorce, I've been very wary of the men around me, always habitually afraid. I'm sorry, I didn't mean any harm. You must have a car too. Let's go sit in the car and run the air conditioner. If my car runs out of gas, we'll switch to yours. That way we can hold out a bit longer. He looked into my eyes, seeming somewhat at a loss. There was a window in the corridor and sunlight streamed in, making it even hotter than inside the room. The air I inhaled felt scorching, and my vision even blurred a little. I took a few breaths, grabbed the car keys by the door, and shut the door. All right, let's go. In a natural disaster like this, no one can stay safe on their own. Sticking together is the only way to survive, so I had to agree with him. The neighbor walked ahead of me and opened the stairwell door, and a wave of cool air rushed out. The 16th floor. Normally no one would take the stairs. But because the stairwell is usually poorly ventilated, the normally stifling space was surprisingly cool. I figured the basement would be even more comfortable. My desire for cooling quickened my pace. Soon I heard footsteps echoing through the stairwell, rising and falling, accompanied by curses and a child's cries. The other residents must have come out after hearing the property notice. When I passed the 5th floor, I saw an elderly man with graying hair sitting on the floor leaning against the wall. He didn't react as people walked by. Sir, are you all right? I stopped and asked. My legs won't carry me. I can't walk. Don't worry about me. Hurry on. The old man said. I hesitated for a moment. The neighbor, who had been walking ahead and had already reached the corner, heard my conversation with the old man and turned back. How about the 2 of us help you walk? No need, get lost. The old man's eyes flashed with a fierce light. I was startled and hurried downstairs. When I reached the 3rd floor, the neighbor finally caught up, zipping his backpack as we walked. I left him a bottle of water. Life and death are in fate's hands. His low voice trembled a little. Basement level 1. The neighbor pulled out his car keys. A small car parked close to the stairwell flashed its lights twice. He took 3 quick strides, yanked open the driver's door, tossed his backpack onto the passenger's seat, and started the car. Hum! With the sound of the engine, the car shook slightly and a blast of gasoline hit us, making my stomach churn. Actually, I'm someone who gets car sick very easily, but at that moment I had no choice but to get in, so I crawled in the back seat. The back seat of this little car was very roomy, but the air was terrible, filled with a sour, fermenting fruit smell. I'm already sensitive to the smell of gasoline, and with this strange odor added, I nearly vomited. Sorry, there's a bag of fruit in the car I forgot to take out. Maybe he saw my twisted face in the rearview mirror, and he spoke softly from the front. I searched around and sure enough found a bag of rotten fruit. After hesitating a moment, I didn't throw it out, but tied the plastic bag tightly and tossed it into the farthest corner. I didn't bring much food. I have to prepare for the worst. The air conditioner was on, and the temperature inside the car gradually dropped. Although it was still stifling, at least it wasn't as hot. People passed by one after another and got into nearby cars. Apparently my neighbors had all thought along the same lines as me. Those who entered the first basement saw the car was full of people. Some turned and walked back, probably to get their car keys, while others hesitated for a moment and headed down to the second basement. I saw several property management staff hurriedly running past the stairwell, each carrying a case of bottled water. What conscientious property management! I marveled. Let me introduce myself. I'm Zach. What should I call you? The neighbor in the front passenger seat said. My name's Sophie. Sorry for getting your car wet. I hesitated and didn't give my real name, folding the soggy blanket and placing it on my lap. It's okay. After he finished speaking, none of us said anything more. We quietly felt the temperature in the car cool down. This natural disaster, who knows when it will end? The air was as stifling as the atmosphere. The only sound in the car was the hum of the vehicle's air conditioner. After a while, he turned on the car radio. Here, it is reported that the extreme high-temperature weather will continue for another week. Residents are advised to avoid going out as much as possible. As soon as it opened, it brought bad news. I sighed and silently wondered whether the water and bread in my backpack would be enough. If only I'd left that duck behind, I could have packed more food and water. Here, temperatures on Greenland have been approaching 70 degrees Fahrenheit in recent days, glaciers melting. ZZZ, global extreme weather. Half the globe turning red. ZZZ, scientists predict that in the next 10 years, maximum temperatures may rise even further. Zach flipped through a few channels, turned them off silently. There was no point in listening on. The reports only made him more anxious. It's all your fault. I told you to take Xiaoming back to his mother's mountain village for the summer, but you wouldn't. Now look, we're nearly refugees. Complaints drifted in from outside the window. A couple with a little girl passed by our car and slipped into the car next to us. Because this small car was parked close to the stairwell, more and more people passed by our car, elders and children, mostly families, hurrying along. I watched them in silence. The light above flickered a few times, and my heart followed suit. The elevators have stopped. Where's the parking lot's lighting getting power from? I don't seem to hear the ventilation fan running. Only the lights are on. While I was thinking that, Zach in the driver's seat suddenly rapped the steering wheel hard and cursed. I froze instantly, and involuntary flashes of past scenes surged through my mind. My ex-husband's fists were covered in my blood. Sophie, I was wrong. We have to go back upstairs. Zach turned his head to look at me, his expression momentarily stunned. Are you okay? He asked cautiously. I wiped the sweat from my face, forcing myself to stay calm. I'm fine. What did you just say? Drink some water first. He handed me a bottle of water. I didn't take it, forcing back the urge to step away. I took a bottle of mineral water from my own bag and drank half of it. My heartbeat eased a little. Sophie, we shouldn't go downstairs. There are too many cars. It could get very hot here in a little while, and it would be dangerous. Zach put the water back in his bag and said, You mean? I realized something too and quickly looked around. Anyone with a car had basically thought of using it to escape the heat. 8 out of 10 cars nearby had already started, and people were still getting into empty cars one after another. Vehicle exhaust could cause temperatures to rise, and carbon monoxide levels might increase too. We need to go back upstairs. Zach looked at me. I rubbed my temples. Going downstairs is easy. Coming back up is hard, especially from the 16th floor. This is killing me. If you don't want to go back upstairs, you can stay in my car. As long as you don't get out, it shouldn't be dangerous, but Zach hesitated. Once the car runs out of fuel, I'll still have to get out for air. Then I'll not only be subjected to the oven-like heat, but could also be poisoned directly by inhaling carbon monoxide. I'm going upstairs. After weighing the options, I made my decision. The two of us, in perfect sync, checked our backpacks, slung them on, and opened the car door. In the neighboring car, A little girl was lying against the window watching me. I couldn't help but tap on their car window. "What are you doing?" The wife moved the child closer and looked fierce. "There are too many cars here. Carbon monoxide levels might be high. I suggest you go home." I said it loudly, not caring whether she understood, and turned to follow Zach's footsteps. They were the ones closest to me. I'd fulfilled my duty to warn them. No need to play the saint. By the time we reached the 5th floor, the old man was gone. Empty water bottles lay on the ground. Higher up, the stairs were full of people coming down. When they saw us going up, many cast puzzled looks our way, but there were also others climbing with us, resting on different landings, apparently thinking the same thing. On the 10th floor, we ran into an acquaintance from property management, Charlie. "Are you going back to get something?" He came down out of breath, with a backpack like ours on his back. Seeing us, he looked surprised. "We're going home, not planning to come down. You'd better notify the people in the parking lot. Watch out for carbon monoxide poisoning," Zach answered him. Charlie's expression froze. He murmured something under his breath, then suddenly leaned close to Zach's ear and whispered a few words to him. I watched Zach's expression shift from puzzled to astonished, then to shocked. "You mean it? God help you." Charlie patted Zach on the shoulder and hurried down. "What did he say?" I asked. Zach turned his head, his expression grave, large beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. "Sophie, I don't know if my judgment is right anymore. You decide, go up to the home, or go down back into the car." Charlie just said, "The property management thermometer shows it's not 48 degrees outside. It's 56 degrees. What does 56 degrees even mean? The coronavirus can only survive for 30 minutes at 56 degrees. What about people?" I was panting, and he was panting too. In that small space, all that could be heard were the two of us breathing. The surrounding temperature was rising. Inhaling and exhaling felt like being in a sauna, waves of heat and discomfort. 56 degrees? Hasn't India been hitting 55 degrees for years? I couldn't help objecting. The number was so astonishing that I suspected Zach had misheard. Maybe it was something like 46 degrees. Even 46 would be terrifying. How could it possibly rise to 56 in such a short time? Zach looked grim. "I'm asking you, are you going home or going to the car? Are you going home or going to the car?" I threw the question back at him, leaning on my knee and gasping. The heat had thinned the air, and after climbing so many flights again, I felt like I was about to burst into flames. Zach didn't answer, opened a bottle of water, drank half of it, and poured the other half over his head. His face was flushed from the heat, his dark circles completely gone. I took the last bottle of water left in my bag, drank half of it as well, and poured the rest over my head. The mineral water pressed against the duct that had thawed 80% felt a bit cool, waking me up a little as I forced the few brain cells left from the heat to think. It's around 4:30 in the afternoon now, with at least another hour and a half before the sun sets. Without air conditioning, the temperature difference between inside and outside is usually 3 to 5 degrees, which means if I go home, I could very well be roasted by temperatures exceeding 50 degrees. But if I go back to the car, I was still hesitating when I suddenly heard the sharp crack of glass breaking. It was the extreme heat that warped the metal window frame, causing the glass to shatter. An even hotter blast of air instantly rushed in. "We have to go. I'm heading home. Do whatever you want," Zach said anxiously, then dashed up the stairs first. I followed without hesitation. The effects of the intense heat were more than I had imagined. As soon as we moved, we heard glass shattering continuously. Some panes even fell out of their frames, breaking all over the floor. On the 13th floor, I was already exhausted like a dog, panting with my tongue hanging out, leaning on the scorching railing, my legs so stiff I couldn't walk. Zach turned, grabbed me, and hauled me up, pulling me to run higher. Heat. The heat seemed to take on a physical form, becoming a fire dragon that chased us relentlessly from behind, occasionally spewing breaths of 1,000 degrees and ready to turn people to ash at any moment. 14th floor. 15th floor. It's unbearably hot. The sweat on my body vaporizes as soon as it hits the ground. For the final level, I almost crawled up, My palms burned painfully where they pressed against the floor, and even my screams hurt my throat. "We have to get inside quickly." Zach fumbled for his keys, but no matter how he tried, he couldn't find them. I grabbed the hem of his shirt from behind and pointed at my front door. "The code is 0726. Ding, welcome home." Luckily, the combination lock hadn't been baked to bits. We scrambled in, rolling and crawling, greedily breathing in the last traces of cool air inside. "That's one huge freezer." I heard Zach's voice, full of surprise. Going home was the right choice. I had stored so much ice, and earlier I had feared a water outage, so I'd also stored a large amount of water in the bathroom. Getting through the remaining hour or so shouldn't be a problem. After a moment, I lay in the bathtub filled with water, a few chickens floating in it. Zach sat on the closed toilet across from me, his heels soaking in a basin of water with a duck, another basin on his thigh, his hands plunged in holding a duck to keep cool. Frozen chickens and ducks were placed everywhere in the bathroom. The sight was a bit ridiculous, but worked. At least the bathroom temperature had dropped into a tolerable range. "You really are something. Did you freeze all that meat in the freezer because you're worried about a zombie outbreak?" Zach teased as he played with a rubber duck in the water. "I'd rather it be a zombie outbreak. At least then I could hole up at home for a few months and not have to worry about dying from the heat," I said coldly, looking out the window. This window, perhaps because it's relatively small and in the shade, hadn't been baked and cracked. Outside it projected the illusory image of a golden city, utterly unreal. If this is a dream, I hope I can wake up soon. 2 hours later, the sun finally set. The city's rooftops lost their golden sheen, and darkness gradually enveloped the land. A little more than an hour passed, and looking out the window, he could see candles lit on several floors. It seemed there were still quite a few people stubbornly staying home. Zach opened the door and stepped out of the bathroom, took a deep breath, and then let out a long exhale. Finally cooling down. I didn't need him to tell me. I could tell the temperature had dropped because soaking in the water, I actually felt a little cold. I climbed out of the bathtub, intending to tidy up my disheveled self, but as soon as my feet touched the floor, I was hit by a wave of dizziness. Crap. The next second my eyes closed on their own, and I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, what I saw was the fan light in the living room. I was lying on the living room floor, and outside the sky was faintly light. Had I been unconscious all night? Awake, Zach handed me a bottle of drink. One good piece of news and 3 bad pieces of news. Which do you want to hear first? Okay, my own hoarse voice startled me. I quickly took a sip of the drink. Zach nodded. "The good news is you're still alive." "And the bad news?" I asked, taking another sip. The drink was already at room temperature, but very palatable. After drinking some, I felt strength throughout my body, sat up and moved my arms and legs, feeling like a survivor. "The bad news is the water cut out last night. The power still hasn't come back, and my phone has no signal. No utilities at all." I fell silent. If today is as hot as yesterday, it'll be even harder to get through. By the way, one more bit of good news. The phone's radio still works, so we can listen to the news before the battery dies. I still have 1%. Zach smiled and turned on the radio. ZZZZ. China National Radio, China National Radio, China National Radio. Please, all citizens try to stay at home during the day. Stay hydrated. Do not go outside. Wait for rescue. This heat disaster has affected 9 provinces nationwide, with maximum temperatures possibly reaching 60 degrees. ZZZZ. Crackle. The phone's battery ran out, and it shut down automatically. I stared at him in numbness. Maximum temperature reaching 60 degrees? That number made me suspect I was living on Flaming Mountain. "Do you have a power bank, dear?" Zach still had the energy to joke. I walked into the study, took 2 power banks out of the drawer, and was about to give them to him when a flash of inspiration crossed my mind. Power banks. Charging. "Zach, come in and give me a hand." I dragged a chair and placed it under the bookshelf. "What are you doing?" "Take down the package on the top that was placed at the very bottom, the square one." "This one? It's a bit heavy, be careful." Zach climbed onto the chair and took the delivery down. "Yes, it's this one." My heart leapt. I took the box and carefully set it on the floor. What is it? Zach asked. A home solar charging system. What? A home solar charging system. I bought it before, never opened it. I really admire myself. These past few years, after being promoted into company management, I've made quite a bit of money. So, I've been buying all kinds of things. If I see something novel or that might be useful, I buy it. If I remember correctly, I bought this solar charging device a year and a half ago. Back then, I planned to get an RV for traveling, but was put off by the lack of parking. Still, I'd already bought a lot of wilderness survival gear in advance. Sophie, you're amazing. You actually have something this great. Zach got excited too, quickly helping to unpack it and set it up according to the manual. Half an hour later, before the sun rose, we placed the solar charging panels on the bedroom bay window, drew the bay window curtains, dragged a freezer into the bedroom, and filled it with small fans. The sun rose slowly, golden light spreading over the land again, the temperature climbing. Zach glanced at me. I nodded. He decisively pressed the switch. Virr, the sound of an appliance starting up, and the noise of the small fan beginning to run, was like music to the ears. When I bought the freezer, I considered that I didn't need rapid freezing, so I chose a lower power model. If the solar panels delivered, keeping it running shouldn't be a problem. Now the freezer was full of drinks and bottled water, some of which were mine and some Zach had brought over from his place. He said he was a game streamer and often didn't leave home for 10 days or half a month, so he had quite a lot of supplies at home. We counted all the food. The ice cream had all melted because it was too hard to deal with. I threw it away. The freezer originally contained a total of 6 chickens, 3 ducks, half a pig, about 5 Gina steaks, and 2 fish and a bag of shrimp. These meats are hard to keep fresh in this weather, so we decided to spread them all out on the balcony floor before they started to rot, to see if today's high heat could bake them in a jerky for easier storage. The leafy greens were mostly ruined after last night's heat bath, giving off foul smells. We didn't dare eat them. Getting diarrhea wouldn't be worth it, so we threw them out on the balcony too, sprinkled some salt, and tried to sun-dry them into preserved vegetables. There were also eggs, which I briefly wrapped in clothing and placed on the balcony rack, hoping they might cook in the sun. When I checked the snacks, I found 2 bags of chips had burst open, baked until hard and crunchy. I took a bag and collected everything off the floor, then moved the remaining unopened packages along with other snacks, cookies, and bread into the bedroom. The canned goods and rice stayed in the kitchen cupboard for now. Then there was a bag of apples, still fresh, so we decided to eat them quickly. This would be our food for the next couple of days. Sophie, you're something else, hiding so much food in the house. Zach exclaimed. Hiss. Goosebumps covered me. Just call my name, Sophie. I walked out of the bedroom and, while the temperature was still tolerable, went to the study to fetch a few books. These books had never been opened since I bought them, with the bad weather making it impossible to go out and the power possibly out, so I couldn't play games or use my phone. They were perfect to read. Zach, sensibly, didn't bother me anymore. He opened the door and went out. When he came back, he also brought a few books and pulled a chair into the corner to sit. As time passed, the temperature rose steadily. We left the freezer slightly ajar and set small fans side by side to oscillate and blow. When the temperature rose further, we opened the freezer a bit wider to keep the room temperature within a tolerable range, and then drank water to replenish what our bodies lost. Even with this makeshift cooling, by afternoon the 2 of us were drenched in sweat. Even while sitting, our books soaked through. All that talk of a calm mind keeps you cool doesn't exist in the face of absolute heat. Fortunately, we made it through. Today's highest temperature, 58 degrees. The heat wave will continue. In the evening, we charged our phones and turned on the radio to listen. We were both still a little shaken. Without that life-saving solar charger, neither Zach nor I know how we would have survived. After dark, we used our phone flashlights for light and brought all the meat from the balcony inside. On the way out, I almost slipped because the floor was covered in fat rendered out by the heat. The smell of the meat was irresistible. Even covers couldn't contain it. I had been worried it might attract people with ill intentions, so I was cautious for several days and slept fitfully at night. But fortunately, no one showed up. Zach went back to his own place to sleep every night and only came over during the day. Starting the next day, he moved over a whole bunch of board games, and with the books we had stored, they whiled away a lot of time. We ate sun-dried, roasted meat every day, occasionally opened a bag of snacks, and drank from the cooler. After getting used to the heat, there was a moment when life seemed serenely good. But I knew this was an illusion, because with each passing day of heat, the number of households with candlelight across the building decreased. A week later at night, I was asleep. In my dream, I was trading intelligence with people from the rival company. They won, and I felt no regret. When I saw them fire celebratory cannons, I was clapping along. Bang! The explosion woke me up. I sat up abruptly and looked out the window, only then realizing it wasn't fireworks, but that somewhere in the building across the way had exploded, the flames cleaving through the night. Lately, I've been hearing explosions and have seen fire and black smoke at night, but always from far away. This was the closest one yet. Bang! Another loud blast, the glass vibrating. I screamed, threw off the covers, and rushed out. By the time I came to my senses, I was clinging to Zach's waist, trembling uncontrollably. It's okay, it's okay. It's the building across the way. The fire won't reach us. He reached out stiffly and touched my hair. I shivered and shoved him away suddenly. Sophie, don't come any closer. I'm fine, I'm fine. I gripped my teeth and retreated back into the bedroom, quickly shutting the door. The fire across the street had fully taken hold, as if I could hear it crackling and the sound of screams. Sophie, are you okay? Zach knocked on the door twice. I crouched down, hugging my knees with both hands and covering my ears. The insistent pounding in my head mingled with Zach's knocking, crashing over me like raindrops. I'm fine, you can go back. I screamed. Sophie, I'm right outside. Don't worry. Everything will be okay, calm down. Zach seemed to be saying that, and the knocking stopped. I couldn't hear it clearly. I just crouched there, looking through the window at the growing flames in the building across the street. Someone rushed out of the fire, falling straight down like a bird without wings. Someone appeared at a window, waving a flashlight frantically for help, and others poured water down from higher floors. But it was no use. The flames kept growing larger and larger, until it enveloped the entire building. Flames soared into the sky. Ironically, while the building across the way had been burned into a hell of fire, barely 100 meters from here the temperature had hardly risen. God, if this really is the end of the world, please let me be released quickly. Huddled like that with my knees to my chest, I kept my eyes open until dawn. The blaze burned the whole night through and still hadn't completely died down by morning. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the bedroom door. I suddenly collapsed to the floor and only then realized my legs had gone numb and lost all feeling. Sophie, it's me, I'm Zach. Look outside, is it raining? He said. They called it rain, but it was only a few scattered drops. If you didn't look closely, you wouldn't notice it was raining because the drops almost evaporated in midair. Half an hour later, I looked down from the balcony. The ground was still golden yellow. The sun came out, and the temperature rose as usual. It was artificial rainfall from the neighboring city. We caught a little of it. Zach was standing behind me holding his phone. Although this little rain was useless, the fact that there was artificial precipitation meant the authorities hadn't stopped functioning. As long as we held on, we would surely wait for a day when the temperature dropped. We must not lose faith in survival. I brought over 2 more cases of water. The heat wave won't last forever. It should pass soon, Zach said as he carried the water to the bedroom door. Seeing I had no objection, he finally brought the water inside. His cautious, wary look was plain to see. What a nuisance. I probably frightened him last night. Several spots in the building across the way kept flaring up, thick smoke billowing and obscuring part of the sky. Sunlight pierced through the black haze, casting a spear of bright red with a rim of orange light around it, menacing and fierce. Faced with such a scene, the two of us both felt a bit absent-minded. We started a game of poker and soon forgot what had just happened, finally giving up the game and each taking a book to read. In the meantime, I went to the bathroom and found that the water in the bathtub used for flushing the toilet was nearly gone. The wash basin and buckets were all empty. These past few days, to save water, We had tacitly agreed to only flush the toilet after a bowel movement and to wash by wiping with a wet towel, but over time, and with the high temperature causing rapid evaporation, that was becoming unsustainable. The toilet water is running low. For now on, let's flush once a day. When I walked out of the bathroom, I suggested this to Zach. Zach heard me, gave a wry smile, but didn't refuse. We both knew this was the result of having no other choice. Luckily, in the middle of the night, 3 days later, we finally got some rain. It was also artificial rainfall, only this time it fell over our city, and the rain in the suburbs was heavy too. The sound of raindrops hitting the windows woke me up immediately. Zach came to knock on the door, his excitement obvious. The two of us put everything that could collect rainwater out on the balcony, try to save as much as possible, and grab towels to take quick showers and wash our hair. Zach quickly took off his shirt, revealing his young body, his muscles still evenly formed, just a bit thin, and he cheered in the rain. I couldn't bother with reserve. Turning my back to Zach, I let the rain wash away the stickiness on my skin. Feeling the raindrops strike my face, my whole body relaxed. I heard happy laughter coming from upstairs and downstairs. Clearly, many people in the building were still holding on. Half an hour later, the rain stopped. It came quickly and left quickly. The bucket was filled to less than a third, but it brought enough coolness and hope. Zach and I opened 2 cans of canned yellow peaches for this, as a reward to ourselves. There was still plenty of food. The heat had already affected our appetites, and we didn't touch the half-roasted pig at all. We only ate a few ducks and chickens. Drinking water and beverages were never in short supply. The drinks I had stocked up from the supermarket before the disaster were still not finished. Hang on a little longer. We will definitely get through this. Ding, ding, ding. Just after changing into clean clothes, another piece of good news. The phone signal was back. A flood of text messages poured in immediately. So as not to miss any external updates, even when there was no signal before, we'd all tacitly kept our phones fully charged every day. I picked up my phone and glanced through the messages. They were mostly safety advisories and heat alerts, plus some notices from the authorities about shelters. Hey, Mom. Zach had already answered the home phone nearby. Unfilial daughter that I am, I'm behind the times. I hurriedly called my mom, but the line said her phone was switched off. No power? I dialed the landline at home. Beep, beep, beep. A rapid, busy tone. How could this happen? I pulled out my dad's phone number and dialed. Still couldn't get through. After thinking, I dug out my eldest uncle's and third uncle's numbers, calling each relative at home one by one. We're fine here, doing okay. Have enough water to drink and enough food to eat. You all must take good care of yourselves, don't. Zach paused for a moment as he spoke on the phone and turned toward me. Mom, anyway, don't go wandering around until the temperature comes down. Listen to the authorities. I'll come back to see you when the weather gets normal. My friend needs to use my phone to call home. I have to hang up now. He said a few more words, hung up, and handed the phone to me. Try mine. I didn't refuse. I took it and first dialed that number I knew by heart, my mom's powered off. Turn off the power. Still off. They probably have a blackout in that area. Seeing me repeatedly call without getting through, Zach comforted me. They are already in their 60s. I grabbed both phones and kept calling. Finally, just as I was about to lose hope, Emma, someone I hadn't been in touch with for many years in my contacts, answered. Hello. Hello, it's Sophie. Emma, it's Sophie, your aunt's daughter. Do you know how things are over on my mom's side? I'm out of town alone and can't reach them. I forced myself to calm down and speak. Oh, it's you. I don't know. Why don't you try calling the shelter numbers? This Emma was pretty helpful. She immediately sent me a list of local shelter phone numbers. I immediately dialed, but after checking 3 numbers, I couldn't find my parents' names. I wanted to keep checking, but a woman's voice came from the phone. Hello. The number you have dialed is out of service. Please call again later. I had a bad feeling. I tried the next number and got the same message. Looking at the phone signal, sure enough it had dropped to 0 bars. The signal was gone. Don't cry. Zach awkwardly handed me a tissue, and I realized my face was already wet with tears. I can't reach them. They're old. It's so hot. What if something happens? Although the mountains are usually much cooler than the city, they can't be immune to such extreme heat, and with the power and signals out, I'm really afraid something might happen to them. They'll be fine. They have to be fine. My parents are fine. They're in a shelter with air conditioning, food, and water. They're much more comfortable than we are, Zach said as he handed me several more tissues. I took them and buried my face in the tissues, crying uncontrollably. I hadn't cried through all these hard days. I didn't cry when the fire in the building across the street scared me. But when I realized I couldn't reach my parents thousands of miles away, I couldn't help but cry. I regret that I shouldn't have been so willful, running off to live so far away by myself, and only going back to see them once a year. If I could do it over, I would definitely stay by their side the whole time and go nowhere. A pair of slightly stiff but warm arms gently wrapped around me from beside. I shrank back a little, my body trembling slightly. Don't be afraid. It's me. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Your parents must have just been somewhere where the signal hasn't come back yet. They must be anxious to contact you too. The phone signal will come back once. It will definitely come back a second time. We have to be patient. Wait a little longer, okay? Although the embrace was clumsy and the words of comfort were nothing new, I gradually calmed down in his voice. Okay, let's wait a little longer. But in the following days, there was no more good news, because the temperature soon rose again, even higher than before the cloud seeding. I stared at the calendar on the wall. Counting from the first day I took leave, 23 days had passed. In that time, the temperature had almost continuously climbed, only dropping slightly on the day of the artificial rain, but then immediately rising above 60 degrees. That's right, the Earth was about to explode. Or rather, humanity could no longer survive on the surface. Some people on Jihu might be right. Humanity is like a virus living on the Earth's surface, and now the Earth is running a fever, using a high temperature to kill the virus. This is the end of humanity. What are you thinking? Hurry and help hold it. It's going to fall. Zach was carrying 2 cases of bottled water past me. The bottles, warped by the heat, were crooked, and one had slipped out of the plastic wrap and was about to fall. I quickly steadied it. I don't know how his household managed to stock so many bottles of mineral water. Over these days, he's moved at least a dozen cartons. I'm wondering if the temperature will keep rising. I helped him move the mineral water into the bedroom, placing bottle after bottle into the freezer. At the hottest moments these past few days, I almost wished I could crawl into the freezer. You also want good news. If it were going to cool down today, it would have dropped by half a degree yesterday. Zach pressed his lips together. His lips were somewhat chapped. No matter how much water we refill, it can't withstand this kind of baking. My lips aren't much better. Actually, there's a possibility. We're about to undergo heat evolution. Haven't you noticed we still haven't experienced a true summer yet? He closed the freezer door until only a narrow gap remained, grabbed his shirt, and fanned himself furiously, his face flushed, sweat pouring down his body. I found him to be quite a gentleman. Except for that time it rained, and he showered while I was there. No matter how hot he was, he never bared his torso. I don't have a tendency to suffer heat stroke. When I was a kid, I'd work in the fields with my mom, even when it was 40 degrees. I spread my hands. Zach listened and turned to look at me with a grin, smiling like an idiot. You called it a heat stroke, Gene? What a coincidence. My family line hasn't had a heat stroke gene for 3 generations either. I've never had heat stroke in my life. My top record is playing in 39-degree sun and getting 3 opponents and 2 teammates hospitalized from heat stroke. I was the one who called 120 for them. Wow, badass do one. I pulled out a bottle of drink and handed him one too. We don't have many drinks left. Each bottle we drink is one less. But people still have to get by, right? Drink, drink, drink. Zach took it, and we happily opened the cap together and took a big gulp. Oh, that's better. He let out a sigh and flopped down onto the floor. The drink had been in the freezer all night, so of course it was pleasant. In this heat, we need the freezer's cold air to cool us, so we can't keep it fully closed. Coupled with insufficient power, the ice inside the freezer had long since melted and is now about the same temperature as the fridge compartment. Only at night does it get a little icy. If you don't drink it now, the cold mist will dissipate in a while. I mimicked him and lay down on the floor, staring at the glass chandelier on the ceiling. I had just replaced this lamp shortly before the disaster, It's still very new, and with even a little light, it can shine brilliantly. Suddenly, it seemed as if I saw the lamp wobble a few times. Was I seeing things? I rubbed my eyes and found the lamp was wobbling more and more violently. It's an earthquake. Zach shot up, grabbed one of my arms, and practically dragged me off the floor, hurling me into the bathroom next to the bedroom. He rushed in after me, frantically looking around. The bathroom smelled because the toilet hadn't been flushed, but that stench was nothing compared to the panic the earthquake brought. This earthquake came without any warning, and it was strong. I had heard that prolonged droughts can cause the ground to move. Before, I'd only seen one-sided claims online and never really investigated, and after so many days of extreme heat, our scorched brains never remembered to think about it. Caught off guard. The building tilted, then returned to normal, then tilted again, then shook up and down like a giant snake passing beneath the ground. I screamed and clutched the only person in front of me I could hold on to. Zach was much taller than me. He bent over and held me tightly in his arms, carrying me as we staggered through the earthquake, occasionally hitting the nearby walls and nearly falling into the bathtub. When the shaking finally stopped, all I could hear was the rapid pounding of my heart and the ragged breathing of the two of us. Like a spasm, the building hadn't collapsed, but the bathroom door was hanging crooked. I collapsed to the floor. Zach walked out supporting himself against the wall, swearing. What do you call a desperate situation? This is what a desperate situation looks like. This earthquake damaged the solar panels that were keeping us alive. It couldn't be repaired because 2/3 of it had been shattered and the electrical box caught fire. We only managed to find a fire extinguisher with great difficulty to put it out, and the bedroom was a wreck. After extinguishing the fire, we had almost used up our last bit of strength and all collapsed to the floor together. The sun in the sky was looking at us with a malicious gaze. I could feel the fine hairs on my face curling from the heat, sinking into my pores and bringing sharp stings. In a few more hours, the heat will kill us. I listened to the radio yesterday. What was today's temperature again? 62 or 66? After a while, I climbed up from the floor and started digging the water and drinks out of the freezer. What are you doing? Enough talk, help me. I told him to push the freezer away from the window and place it at the foot of the bed, then threw all the drinks inside onto the bed. Then I took off my shoes and stepped in. It won't work. In a while, the temperature will rise, and you might suffocate in there. Not me, us. I waved at him. To my surprise, Zach then took a step back. I won't go in. I have claustrophobia. You don't need to worry about me. Sit down. I'll put the drink in to cool it down for you. Maybe you can hold on. His eyes flickered. Well, claustrophobia. I beckoned him with my finger. Zach, I've had one failed marriage in my life. I was beaten badly before I got out. If you don't mind me, come in. I'm not hiding anymore. I want to give myself a chance. I find that I quite like you. As the words fell, I saw Zach's pupils dilate. He swallowed. I looked at him solemnly, feeling the heat rising in the room, unable to tell whether it was the actual temperature rising or my face getting hotter. I spoke the boldest words of my life. Zach, would you be willing to die with me? Dead sooner or later is still death, but as individuals, we cling to life and fear death. I hoped he would cling to life and fear death. Zach turned his head, his face visibly reddening to the color of pork liver. My name is Zach. I'm 28, an online content creator, not a game streamer, and I barely make enough to get by. What a coincidence. You heard me earlier. I'm Sophie, 31, a sales rep at a software company. I make enough money to support you. Would you like to be supported by me, Zach? Once a person's skin gets thicker, certain realms are elevated. At least I won this debate that took place at the end of the world. Zach finally nodded at me seriously, then rushed into the bathroom, emptied the remaining water into a bucket and brought it over, pouring it into the freezer. I instinctively opened a bottle of mineral water and poured all of it into the freezer. Once the mineral water was emptied, it filled about a quarter of the freezer's bottom. The whole process took less than 5 minutes, but the surrounding temperature had already reached a level where even breathing had to be done cautiously, as if taking a deep breath would inhale a ball of fire. I sat in the water, making a little room for Zach. He tossed a pile of unopened drink bottles into the water, shoved a still-working small fan at me, and squeezed in as well. Although the freezer was large, it was still a squeeze for two adults, especially Zach. After he sat down, more than half his head was still exposed. I shifted, turned to his side, curled into his arms, forcing his knees to bend and lie down in a cramped, awkward position. The waterline still hadn't risen above our waists. I reached out and pulled the freezer lid closed, leaving only a narrow slit. The temperature inside the freezer was now much lower than outside. I even sneezed. "Are you all right?" Zach asked anxiously. "It's okay, Zach. If we survive this, can I take you to meet my parents?" I wrapped my arms around his waist and rested my face on his shoulder. "As long as we survive, I'll bring my household registration and go with you. We can get our marriage certificate right then and there." "You said it. No backing out." "Absolutely no backing out. But you have to do me a favor." Zach said. "What favor?" "You have to meet my brothers. They all laugh at me for being a shut-in who can't find a wife. Well, I found one now, haven't I? And she's beautiful. They'll be so jealous." Zach laughed out loud. The rare coolness, though the position was very uncomfortable, made all of us feel much more at ease. "Fine, as long as we can survive. I'm even willing to do a live stream to profess my love to you. As long as we can survive. Anything is possible." The temperature began to rise, accompanied by occasional aftershocks. I couldn't tell if it was just my imagination. Please, not another major earthquake. This building couldn't withstand a second violent tremor. When the heat reached a certain point, I turned on the small fan. Its buzzing replaced the sound of our heartbeats. The faint circulating air was our only remaining source of life. I have to stay alive. I don't know how much time passed. I actually fell asleep, and when I woke up, the first thing I saw was Zach's face, dark bluish eye sockets, gaunt cheeks, a messy stubble. His eyes were closed, his lashes quivering slightly, as if he were dreaming. Looking out from the freezer, I could see the sky was still bright, but something about it seemed different. Sound. Is it the sound of rain? I reached out through the gap in the freezer and felt that the outside temperature wasn't very high, so I opened the freezer and stuck my head out. A torrential downpour pitter-pattered against the shattered glass. I saw the sky outside was a sheet of gray. Large drops were falling from the sky, some splashing into the room through the deformed bay window frame, forming a puddle on the floor. It started to rain. I pinched my own cheek. It hurt. "It's really raining." "Lou, Zach, it's raining. We're alive. We're alive." I slapped his face excitedly, trying to wake him up, but what I felt was intense heat. "Zach, don't scare me." I felt his forehead and hurriedly climbed out of the freezer. Fortunately, I had woken him. "Is it raining?" "It's so cold." "Yes, it's raining. You're having a fever. Hurry and get out." I helped him up. He slipped in the water and hit his head hard against the inside wall of the freezer with a loud bang that made my heart race. After finally dragging him onto the bed, I quickly wiped his body with the blanket, tore off his shirt, and wrapped him in a dry blanket. "It's unbearably hot." He kicked off the quilt, turned over, and fell into a deep sleep, breathing rapidly. I stood by at a loss. I had never cared for a patient before and didn't know what to do. Seeing him close his eyes, I hurriedly pulled the quilt back over him, leaving only his little feet exposed, then walked out of the bedroom. I still hadn't made it to the living room after the earthquake. It was a mess. The TV had fallen and crushed half of the coffee table. The display cabinet was leaning against the balcony window, and there were strips of jerky and dried vegetables scattered and rolling everywhere. It could have been worse. I found one of my shoes and put it on first, then carefully lifted the TV and took out a first aid kit from the deformed drawer of the TV cabinet. Because I live alone, I keep some cold medicine and anti-inflammatories at home, but unfortunately, due to the previous pandemic, I hadn't been able to stock any antipyretics. After hesitating for a moment, I took out a box of anti-inflammatory medicine, mixed in some vitamins, returned to his bedside, and fed them to him with a drink. Fortunately, he was a good patient and let me fuss over him. After doing that, I let him sleep, turned, and picked up the bucket and basin from the floor, intending to collect and save some of the rainwater. Raindrops kept striking the window with dull sounds, rising and falling, weaving into a chorus. In the distance there were rumbling noises, sometimes loud, sometimes faint, like thunder. I skirted around the scattered obstacles and cautiously approached the balcony. Just as I was about to set down the bucket and basin, I glanced out and saw a scene in the distance that made me suddenly widen my eyes and go rigid. As far as I could see, a colossal rolling yellow dragon was advancing relentlessly. White crests surged along its back. Wherever it passed, tall buildings collapsed with a crash, and lower structures were swallowed and submerged. What I heard was not thunder at all, but the sound of a raging flood washing away building after building. This is impossible. It just started raining. How could there be such a massive flood? This is inland, so it can't be a tsunami. Wait, if it is a tsunami, what about those coastal cities? My hometown, my parents, they're in a coastal city. The messages on the radio have become more and more formulaic these days. Could that be a way of covering this up? I couldn't bear to think any further. I just stood where I was, watching that yellow behemoth draw nearer and stir up peals of thunder. These buildings, baked by intense heat and loosened by earthquakes, could never withstand the full force of a flood. They toppled one after another. Only a few scattered structures still stood, but they were wavering. How long before they, too, fall was only a matter of time. The ground beneath my feet began to tremble. The flood was very close. My legs went weak, and I almost fell to the floor. I forced myself back to the bedroom. Zach was still asleep, seemingly unaware of everything around him. I found myself oddly envious of him. I climbed into bed, crawled under the covers, and hugged him tightly. Zach seemed to be roused by me. He murmured a couple of words and turned his head toward me. At least there's company on the road to the underworld. Rumble. With a deafening bang, like trucks colliding, the building suddenly shook, and the few remaining panes of glass shattered instantly. Amid the crashing sounds, the glass chandelier overhead came crashing down and landed straight onto the quilt. A piercing, shrill noise rang from where the wardrobe met the wall. Then the whole bed was flipped over. I felt as if I'd been thrown out, hit something, and was then yanked back sharply by a hand. When I opened my eyes, Zach was gripping my hand, his face full of astonishment, his mouth opening and closing, but his voice couldn't be heard over the roar. I grabbed his hand back, threw myself toward him with all my strength, and finally made it back in his arms, clutching him tightly, tumbling through the air and falling. Bang! I lost consciousness. Maybe it was only for an instant. The ground beneath me was still shaking when I came to. The building hadn't collapsed. Only the exterior walls were gone. We were wrapped in blankets, Zach's one arm around me, the other hand under the blanket, and both of my hands were beneath me, unable to move. The overturned freezer was pressing down on us, holding us tightly together. You can tell from his expression that the two of us must look pretty bedraggled right now. 16th floor. He croaked out the 3 words, coughing a few times. Our building has 33 floors. The 16th is right in the middle, the most earthquake-resistant spot, the axis of a tremor, and the highest point the local fire department's ladder can reach. I didn't know whether it was rainwater or the water we'd poured into the freezer earlier, seeping slowly and soaking us. I felt my thigh grow cool and wanted to look down, but he turned my head and kissed me on the mouth. Stay alive, Sophie. The sudden kiss stunned me. We all have to survive. I still want to go meet your parents with you, get our marriage certificate. You have to video call my brothers so I can show off my girlfriend, my wife. He kissed me again and buried his head in the hollow of my shoulder. Zach, can you get up? I asked him. I can't get up, I'm stuck. His voice was muffled, and after a few seconds he said, I regret it so much. Regret what? I asked. He mumbled softly. If I'd known back when I first saw you open the door and fell in love at first sight, I should have rushed over and declare my love. I was just too timid, and now I'm about to die, still a virgin. I almost burst out laughing when I heard it. My body trembled and my chest felt constricted, making me very uncomfortable. The two of us are really pressed tightly together now, packed so close I can hardly breathe. Zach, if you proposed to me back then, I would have moved out the next day. Moving out might have been good. Maybe you would have survived. He spoke quickly. I was silent for a moment, tried to move my hand, and it ached sharply. Actually, I felt some regret too. If in those last few seconds I hadn't gone back to the bedroom, but stayed on the balcony, I'd certainly have been swept away and cleanly drowned or killed by impact, or smashed by the waves by now. No need to pretend calm here and feel death approaching. The water in the room kept rising. The water from outside had indeed flooded in, floating beneath my forehead. "Don't move. I'll see if I can crawl out." After I said that, I secretly gathered my strength and twisted my body. It wasn't jammed so tightly after all. As I really began to shift outward, there were still some gaps. I endured the sharp pain of my arm rubbing against something unknown and slid one hand out from beneath me. The pressure dropped suddenly. A drop of sweat from Zach fell onto my face. He forced himself up with one arm, matching my movements. I slowly crawled out, wriggling in the water, finally freeing the other hand as well. Using both hands, I crawled out from under him. Thud! Zach suddenly collapsed face first into the water. "Are you okay?" I hurriedly called to him. When I climbed out, I discovered that all the water on the ground was red. "You won't die." He also crawled out and wiped the water from his face. I noticed his other hand was twisted and held behind his back, probably broken, and there was a sharp shard of glass stuck in his left ankle. But I wasn't doing much better. The back of my right leg had been cut deeply by something, and blood was still flowing out. The water level in the room had clearly risen, almost reaching my ankles. Many people shout every day that they're not afraid of dying, but the human desire to live often reaches its peak just before death. He and I exchanged a glance, and, with a tacit understanding, hopped out together, passing the collapsed wall beside the security door and jumping onto the staircase where a rebar protruded. Only upward could keep us alive. Adrenaline made us struggle up 2 flights, and we finally collapsed in the stairwell on the 18th floor. Zach gasped a few times, reached out to grab my shirt, and tried to pull it up. I shuddered. "What are you doing? Does he want a last hurrah before he dies? I don't have that kind of energy. Your thigh needs pressure to stop the bleeding. Take off your clothes and use them to tie it." He said. "Why isn't it you taking off your clothes?" "Because I'm afraid of pain." He pointed to the twisted arm still slung behind his back. I thought for a moment, untied my shoelace, and tied it tight a few centimeters above the wound. Blood was still flowing, but the flow had lessened. It should be almost stopped. The blood loss made me start to feel dizzy, my whole body chilled. "Forget it. Let me jump down from over there." While I still had strength, I pointed to the window in the stairwell whose frame was nowhere to be seen. Now it was like an open shaft, and a constant whooshing of wind came from it. "No, I have to die before you do. Otherwise, when it gets out, it'll sound too awful." Zach got up, limping, crawled to the vent, then looked outside and began to cry. "What are you crying about? We've lasted this long. That's longer than a lot of people. Maybe we won't even have to queue up to go to the underworld." I teased him. I joked with him. He turned his head and wiped his face. "Honey, come see God. I'm an atheist." I said weakly. "No, you have to come. It's amazing." Zach hopped over and tried hard to pull me up from the ground. Afraid of pulling him down, I could only struggle to my feet. The two of us, sick and disabled, clung to each other for support and leaned against the vent. The wind blew through my wet hair. I looked up and out, wanting to see if I could glimpse the same hallucination as him, and suddenly my eyes widened. The corners of my eyes were wet, and my tears fell. I saw a flag, red, with 5 stars printed on it, 1 large and 4 small arranged around it. There was also a blue-gray ship and a small black boat cutting through the waves. On the boat were those most beloved people. Have you ever seen a beauty at first sight? The Sophie at the door was not very tall, wore her hair in a bun, and had very pretty eyes. When Charlie from the property management came by to deliver the notice, I liked her at first sight. Too bad I'm such a coward, I didn't dare to look for long. After listening to Charlie's notice, I hurriedly shut the door, and only after closing it did I start to regret it. Was I rude just now? I stayed up late editing videos again last night, and just woke up, so my hair must be a total mess. This is bad. My first impression on the girl across the way was awful. I need to think of how to make it up to her. Or should I ask her whether she needs her computer fixed? Would it be too strange to go now? Wait a few more days? The temperatures are outrageously high, with extreme heat of varying degrees appearing around the world. The power went out. It's so hot. I rummaged through the little freezer at home and, to my surprise, found an ice cream stick that I don't know how long I'd left in there. Wait, is this heaven giving me a chance? I held the ice cream and, summoning my courage, finally made it to her door and pressed the doorbell with trembling hands. Ding dong, ding dong. I was so nervous I was sweating profusely. After half a minute of ringing, she opened the door a crack, wearing a t-shirt and athletic shorts, her pretty eyes full of wariness. Oh, was I being abrupt? I just called the property management and said it'll be another half hour. You must be overheated. Have an ice cream to cool down. I have plenty at my place. If you're hot, you can come get some for me. I had no idea what I was saying, and as soon as I finished, I regretted it. Serves you right for showing off. What if she asked me for a different ice cream? No, thank you. I didn't know whether it was fortunate or not. She refused me. I thought for a moment, then left the ice cream on the shelf by her door and turned to go home. Then quickly threw herself onto the peephole. She opened the door and accepted the ice cream I gave her. She accepted it. So happy. What should I give next? Would bottled water be okay? She certainly wouldn't refuse water in weather this hot. So it was happily decided. I'll bring her water in a little while. Anyway, because I can't stand tap water or boiled water, I stocked a whole room full of bottled water. That annoying quirk has actually made me a sudden water tycoon. If she wants to use it to bathe, I can even let her. Everyone, attention all residents, our city is currently facing a heat disaster, and the community's solar panels have been damaged by the sun. However, the sky did not cooperate. Half an hour later, after glancing at the temperature on my phone and remembering what the building management had said, I decided staying alive was more important for now. Flirting could wait. With that thought, I quickly packed some food and drinks, grabbed my car keys, and hesitated briefly before opening the door, leaning in close to the peephole. Maybe, yes, the young woman next door had indeed packed things to leave. I almost opened the door at the same time as her. I nodded toward her, wearing an expression of utter reliability. Come with me, my car's got a full tank. At that moment, I must have looked super handsome. So why did she step back after hearing me? Did I scare her? Damn. Serve you right for showing off. Serve you right. I pinched myself in my head, hurriedly softened my tone, and told her I meant no harm. Maybe I was too earnest. She agreed to go downstairs with me. I walked in front, checking with the corner of my eye that she was following right behind me, and I couldn't help but daydream a little. Oh my, the husband leads and the wife follows. She tried to take the old man from the 5th floor with us, but he chased her off angrily. I thought for a moment and decided to leave one bottle of water for the old man. Good deeds should be done by husband and wife together. She got into my car. Now we are in the same space. Damn, I forgot there were still fruits in the car that I didn't throw out. How embarrassing. But I learned her name. She's called Sophie, such a cute name. I didn't dare say my name was Zach. After thinking it over, I used my mom's surname and told her I was Zach. Otherwise, I feared she'd react like many who'd heard my name before, thinking a grown man named with a reduplicated word was disgusting. Do it again. I realize I'm an idiot. The basement's fresh air unit stopped. The air isn't circulating. So many cars, so many air conditioners. Not only will the temperature surely rise soon, but incomplete gasoline combustion will also cause carbon monoxide to accumulate. If it stays in a parking garage, people could be poisoned at any time. I had no choice but to carry Sophie back up to the 16th floor. I am guilty. I made her suffer. While we were resting halfway, we ran into Charlie from building management, and he brought me some bad news. It's not about eradicating the coronavirus. It's about eradicating people. The extreme heat of 56 degrees stunned me. I was at a loss and could only let Sophie make her own decisions. Whatever decision she made, I would support her. Later, she decided to go upward. She told me the code to her house. She invited me into her house. Is this the house a girl lives in? It really smells so nice. Even the bathroom is fragrant. Later, the extreme heat played matchmaker for us. I don't know whether I should love this matchmaker. In short, thanks to the heatwave matchmaker for ending my 28 years of singlehood. From now on, please stay farther away from us and farther away from humanity. Heat, earthquakes, floods. The series of cascading natural disasters that struck in the summer of 2022 gradually subsided, and the floodwaters receded. I've been recuperating from a leg injury, and Sophie recovered faster than I did. In the past few days, she's already started coordinating post-disaster rebuilding across several communities. I think she's amazing. No wonder she's my wife. My in-laws were even more impressive. I heard they donated the mountaintop to the authorities to serve as a refuge. It's a designated temporary resettlement area. Communications have been restored, but unfortunately transport is difficult, so I can't go see them right away. When this disaster is over, I must remind her to hurry and take me home to meet my parents, and most importantly get the marriage certificate so I can show off in front of my brothers. Who says this deadbeat otaku will die alone? I got myself a wife in just over 20 days. I hope everyone is still alive.